Can you hear us now?
Nope. Okay, that's right.
Can you hear
Can
us
you
now?
hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Testing.
There it is.
Awesome.
There it is. All right, let's go ahead and just start with the.
All right, great. Let's get started, everybody.
All right, let me go ahead and turn this music off. You want to go ahead and get. All right, John, go ahead and introduce our guest today.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the GasLit podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Roman Prokopchuk. And Roman Prokopchuk has a digital savage experience. He is a digital savage.
Yeah.
He's a self-made digital marketer that got into it out of necessity, but he developed a passion for it and for learning. And we want you to meet him because he's a very interesting man. We learned a lot of great things about him on his bio, and we're going to find out more about some of his journeys, some of his challenges, how he's overcome them, and how he's succeeding now and thriving.
Yeah, I'm super duper excited.
We are too.
Roman,
Thanks for
how's
being
it
on the show,
going?
Roman.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we're super stoked to have you, man. You're over on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey,
New
really?
Jersey.
How's that like it there?
We have a warehouse in New Jersey too.
We do?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of annoying with all the lockdown stuff still now. But
Oh, you guys are still locked down out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's mass mandates. There's still like gathering stuff, certain things that don't necessarily make sense where you can do one thing versus another. But yeah.
We feel you, brother. It's the same thing here in California. So we operate the warehouse down here in Los Angeles, and it's the same garbage. It's just a bunch of mandates that don't make any sense. I don't live here, but because I'm a Nevada resident, so I'm used to having the freedom of walking around like a normal human being, not like a slave. So.
Roman, really quick before we get started, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I have a digital marketing agency. The website is novazoradigital.com. I have an interview-based podcast called The Digital Savage Experience, and recently launched a second show with two co-hosts called Real Talk Podcasting within kind of the podcasting space as well.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Great. Is there a handle or anything like that where people can tweet him at, or if they want to get in touch with him?
Yeah, first and last name. I'm on every social platform. I mean, you can, I guess, send like a carrier pigeon, smoke signal, whatever works for you. So.
To get
They'll
a
find
hold
their
of you.
way.
Awesome.
The animal instinct.
So, speaking of lockdowns, one of the things that me and Jimmy always talk about here, because we're more of a political, I guess, comedy podcast.
Yeah.
we talk a lot about what's going on in the world today, right?
We try
Especially
to
in the
make
United
sense
States,
as much as possible.
of the nonsense that is our U.S. government. So, you come from former Soviet Union, correct? Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about that experience, because that actually hits close to me, because my parents are also from the former Soviet Union, from Armenia. So, and my wife is also, I believe she came around the same time you did to this country. So talk us through that experience.
Yeah, which is very kind of scary in my opinion, because I see a lot of commonalities with what's going on currently with what I experienced as a child. But yeah, I was born in Ukraine in 1984. So Ukraine gained its independence in 1992, came over here in 1990. But things obviously like religious persecution, state-controlled media, not being able to freely express, obviously, your thoughts if they went against what the government was saying or the state. I guess we came over as, in terms of religious persecution, even though theoretically, I guess in communism, there is no God in a way. You just kind of serve the state in that way.
Correct.
So, yeah. So even though I remember when I was little, my parents, grandparents, aunt, everybody else still went to church. So obviously, because of that, the KGB followed you around. They would tap kind of your phones. They would, stand and park in front of the church when people left, kind of tracking movements and losing certain privileges. My mom was supposed to be valedictorian. They knew she was a Christian, so they took that away from her and some other things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that, like bread lines. I remember waiting with my mom and my parents sometimes, like warm water would be shut off at night, electricity, stuff like that.
Wow.
certain
So
hours of the day, right? They would only have you would only have like warm water for like 2 hours or electricity for like 4 or 5 hours, and that's it. So it was all
yep.
rationed. It wasn't. People take everything we have here for granted. So, but one of the things I think we talk about is like the bread lines. That's really serious. I mean, I joke with Jimmy. I'm like, oh, everyone thinks it's all hunky dory until we gotta start standing in bread lines, and it's not a joke. I remember when Armenia gained its independence as well. It was not what people thought it was. They thought like, oh, great, now we're a free country, and oh, this is gonna be amazing. But when you're not used to fending for yourselves, right? When you're just a slave to the state, kind of, which is pretty much what the socialist agenda is, right? You're meant to serve the country. That's kind of like your thing. It's not faith or anything else. It's serving the country. So it makes people very dependent on their masters, right?
Yeah, you get brainwashed. That's why a lot of this stuff happened. I mean, obviously with Eastern Ukraine and annexation of Crimea, I have a certain opinion about, the Russian government and Russia in general in terms of what's going on in Ukraine.
We don't want no KGB members showing up at your door, so.
Well, I interned with the Secret Service before, and I have friends in the NSA, FBI, and all the other agencies. So,
That's great.
I got that aspect on lock, I guess, but it's definitely a mindset when you get brainwashed. That's why a lot of people older, I would say 50, 60, 70, they still favor that Soviet Union kind of mindset and lifestyle because that's all they knew. That's what they were like conditioned to do. So, and even now, like the media there is controlled by the government. I guess Putin made laws in terms of if you protest, if it's against him, like it's illegal to protest unless you're protesting in agreement with something that they're trying to get out. So there's a lot of that. I feel like I guess in the US last year and this year, there's a lot of like non two-sided dialogue. So like if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, and like you're the enemy, stuff like that. And there's like less conversations really being had, I think.
It's sad to see that, like, people are just becoming polarized, and I feel like I'm getting bipolar.
Right? Yeah, you're either
we're becoming so polarized as a country just because these extreme leftists, they want to push this progressive agenda that is really, like, when you look at it, it's regressive, right? Where all the freedoms and all the liberties that we share and have in this country for everyone, they want to make it sound like, oh, only certain people have those. So no, we can't. This doesn't work. We have to blow up the system to try to create this new equity. But equity doesn't work. It's failed time and time again. If socialism worked, if communism worked, most of the world would be communist, right? So we've already had this war one time, and it didn't work out. Eventually people realize that having their own independence, their freedom, their ability to think and speak and act freely is more valuable than the state controlling their lives and their day-to-day, right?
Yeah, and it's just kind of like being limited in terms of movement, being limited in terms of like if you don't agree with this, something is wrong. Like the censorship of social media too. I saw people posting in terms of like their adverse reactions to vaccines and things they're going through, and they automatically get flagged like, oh, this isn't necessarily like lines up with the narrative. Well, it's a person's experience. They're going through an adverse event. Like I worked with pharma and life sciences companies. Like if something goes like that, it gets reported directly to like a consumer watchdog group that gets then evaluated and analyzed. And I feel like people are rushing to do this, that, or the other. And like, if you don't agree with that some way or some form, I guess you're like the enemy, or like, how could you have your own opinion, or how could you really like, you're really hurting me. How am I hurting you? Like, if you want to get a vaccine, then you have a vaccine that should protect you in theory, if it's a vaccine,
right?
But you're still a carrier, and people are still getting COVID after vaccine, so it defeats the purpose. Yeah, and then a vaccine works, then why do you still have a mask? And then if 6 feet work, then why do you need a mask, or vice versa? So just like the logic does not make sense if you're like an educated person or a free thinking person, or just like work things out in your mind. Like it doesn't necessarily add up.
Guys, hold on. It looks like the YouTube cut our stream.
Oh, just kidding. But it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens to the best of them. Anytime we have this conversation where it's just common sense cannot prevail in this. I mean, with this new Biden era. I mean, it's everything but common sense.
Well, we've been building up to this, right? I think it's been a slow, gradual move from. I think maybe after the whole sexual revolution, the creation of identity politics.
I think that's one of the big keys. I think using the identity politics to kind of be a red herring, like, hey, look at this, what's going on over here? We're just talking about transgender stuff, which affects like nobody, right? It affects like 1% of the population, if anything. But no, everyone's got to focus over here so that we're just going to keep driving our agenda. That actually has limiting effects on the rest of the world. Like, you're a communist, you're a racist, you're a fascist, you're this, you're that. What are you talking about? Like, what people like in the United States, especially. I mean, we've progressed so much in the last like 30, 40 years. We elected a black president the last 2 elections prior to Trump, right? Like, how can you call this country a racist country? How does the majority of the people vote for an African-American president, right? Or black president? It's crazy for them to say, oh, we're a racist country, or we're not in tune with gays or lesbian or whatever it is.
Yeah, this country is like very accepting.
It's the most accepting country.
For the most part.
Right,
Roman,
listen,
for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you haven't experienced it and you cry about like your freedoms, but then you go like, all right, try being gay in like Jamaica, see what happens, or something like that. Or open in other countries like Russia where they have formal laws. Now, like that, each person is like living their own life or whatever, but like don't necessarily push that on me or force me to like question or compromise my beliefs because you want this like whole like utopian, society, which isn't going to happen, which is. And it happened actually with my wife because she was working with somebody, and then the whole pronoun thing, they wanted to be associated or identified as it, they. And she's like, I'm not going to call you that because that's dehumanizing. To me, that's dehumanizing. Like, you're not an object. You're not an inanimate object or like a couch or like a location. You're a human being. So, I mean, I heard a good joke. I associate as Michael Jackson, and my pronouns are he. Heard that joke like 2 weeks ago. I thought it was hilarious.
Did you guys see Michael Jackson in that meeting?
I would
He actually did reply back. Yeah, that's amazing.
Roman, I'm glad we had you on today.
Roman, talk to us a little bit about your internship at the Secret Service. That was that really stuck out to me. Like, how does somebody coming from from the former Soviet Union get an internship gig without getting looked at side-eyed, like, I wonder why he wants to join the ranks over here.
He's not.
Yeah, I was a criminal justice major in college, and I guess either junior year I was thinking about going directly into the Marine Corps, because if you have a bachelor's degree in terms of the Marine Corps, you can become a commissioned officer, get a second lieutenant post, and go to officer candidate school. But I got really sick, almost died from like this bacteria in my stomach. So that didn't go that way. But then, I found the internship. You have to basically take 6 or 7 months to really do background checks because you get basically a top secret federal clearance. And I interned on the counterfeit currency squad. So people think that the Secret Service only has a duty of like protection, but they actually act as agents of, the Treasury investigating counterfeit currency crimes as well. So basically, which was funny, the other task I had as an intern was like to screen the mail for bombs and suspicious materials. So they just like left the interns as pawns, basically. Like, you guys handle that, X-ray all that.
You'll be all right.
I hope it wasn't during like that anthrax period.
It was like the mail things.
Anything
even
coming in
better.
with white dust on it, you're like, wait a minute. Shouldn't we be wearing masks for this?
Yeah.
No, just lick the envelope first. We'll let you know in like 30 minutes. Oh man. So that must have been pretty interesting. I mean, being around those types of like federal agents, having that type of clearance, right, where you have access to, highly classified information, and you're around these these people are sworn to protect our country and our president, right? So it's got to be a cool experience for someone who's like a junior in high school.
Yeah, it was a serious thing because like you said, movements of dignitaries, movements of the president. So
Yeah.
obviously if I wanted to be malicious about that information, you
Sure.
can plan or whatever, an ambush of some sort. But it was fun in the sense where they took us to the range, so I got to shoot like MP5s and all this other stuff.
That's awesome.
Which was also fun. And learning about currency, because there's like all these crazy things about each denomination that you wouldn't even know in terms of what you actually look at, because there's a lot of good fake bills and you have to go through all this protocol to actually identify it. So
Roman, I do have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this or not. I've been telling John, so you go to other countries, right? And, they have bills. They feel like regular dollar bills like here in America. What's stopping another country from just taking the blueprint from the United States and just printing United States dollars? Like, is that something that will get caught by the Treasury, or, you know what I'm saying?
Where all the
Yeah,
numbers they have
yeah,
serial
every
numbers.
bill has a serial, and then there's like plates. You have specific plates in terms of making it, specific, obviously, ink, and then like the watermarks already come on the paper that's cut. So everything is like fine tuned. When I was a intern, a lot of C notes, so $100 bills, like almost perfect replicas, were coming out of Israel because somebody stole a plate or something happened where they got something where it got as close as possible. But yeah, like every bill, every series has a serial number. So eventually, like, yeah, you can put it out there and circulate it, maybe bring it to a store and purchase it, but eventually it's going to get flagged.
I see it. Okay.
That's crazy.
Well, we write it out until we got it. Yeah.
How do you feel the this new movement to the digital currency? Because I travel to China all the time, and over there it's predominantly digital currency. Everyone pays either through WeChat Pay or Alipay. You could pay everybody from a street vendor to, you can go to Walmart in China and pay with those digital currencies. So I definitely see that coming here to the United States. How do you think they're going to go about kind of controlling that to make sure that people's, because I don't see fiat currency standing for much longer. I think it's only about 5% of the current actual money that exists is fiat currency right now. So if everybody went to the bank right now and try to, get their cash out,
Big problem.
big problem. So how are they? I'm sure that they have their own task force, right, to kind of mitigate like theft and crime, like cyber crime like that.
Yeah, currently, like obviously the IRS is thrown in there too, but it's one of those things where like you create
out
it
to
to
the IRS.
deregulate, but then you throw the government in and you regulate. So I know China, I guess it was a few weeks ago, they formally launched their digital currency internally.
Mm-hmm.
So even with like, blockchain and Bitcoin, Ethereum and everything else, they launched it and it was like you can take it offline in terms of cold storage. And before you have millions of dollars in this and nobody can find it. But then they saw, a lot of black market stuff and criminals utilizing it to pay. And now it's all regulated. So like you have to report it every year profit. So like the application is great. But then when you throw the government in there in terms of regulation and control, that's when it gets cloudy, like with everything, I guess.
Sure. It's because now they have access. It's like they know your dollars, just like they did with all the FDIC assured bank accounts that we go deposit our money in. So are you a proponent of using like big Bitcoin? How do you see like Bitcoin and Ethereum and these other, altcoins as potential for future transactions for people that don't want the government all up in their business?
They're cool. I have some, but I would go off the grid and like barter and trade like gold and silver. And eventually like precious metals are precious metals. Like
Yeah.
joking aside, like if everything collapses, that still has value in terms of trade or barter. So, you can create whatever currency you want in any form, but eventually it's like adding value. Like, what value does one Bitcoin have? It's one of those things where, like, in Holland back in the day, they had this like stock market for like tulips or whatever, tulip bulbs. I don't know if you heard about it. And then it completely crashed and people just like started like committing suicide and all that. It's like, what intrinsic value do you put on something? And if somebody's willing to pay for it or identify as that, like, I can sell my shoe for $1 million. If there's a buyer, that's awesome. If not, what value does it really have?
Yeah, they're gonna go in the garbage, right? So it's like one of those. It is what kind of intrinsic value we're putting, because really Bitcoin, does anybody? I mean, we understand the blockchain, we understand how it works and how it's secure, but it's just because people are giving it that value that it's like trading at 50,000 or whatever the heck it is today, right? So I remember when it was like $16. Should have bought a bunch of it back
today,
then.
I think. I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Did it?
Yeah, it hit peak value today.
Is it like at 60,000 now? What is it at?
They're
saying it's gonna go up to like 100,000 plus.
I think
so. We'll see.
On,
I'm gonna feel really bad about it that I didn't buy it at $16.
According to CNBC, Bitcoin hits new all-time high above 63,000.
63,000.
There it is.
63,000 for something you can't feel or touch. It's amazing. I can't wait till Putin comes out and says, "Ha ha! This is all mine." I have tons of these. Oh man.
So,
do you have any questions?
I do. Roman, have you been back to the Ukraine recently?
I've been back in 2006 and 2008.
Yeah, how was that?
That's a lot. It was good. I mean, I went to Crimea in 2006. I would not be going to Crimea 2021.
Sure.
Probably won't return. But I'm from Lviv, Ukraine, which is on the western side, which is about like 40 miles from the Polish border. So it's like a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's about, over 750 years old. So every like uprising that Russia thinks starts, like patriotic wise, they say it comes from the West, because we're more proponent in terms of like using our own language instead of like speaking Russian.
Correct.
Even though Putin says, you can't stop Russian speak. We're not trying to. It's a second language. Or like in all these Soviet bloc countries, like the Soviet Union actually forced all of these countries to learn Russian.
Correct.
But that's a whole different story. But it's like, Russian speakers, are getting persecuted in Ukraine. No, they're not. You just want like a power play. So I mean, it's one of those things where like my heritage obviously builds who I am, and I would go back, but with obviously the global climate and everything else, haven't gotten an opportunity recently.
Oh, okay. Well, there is also something, you spoke about a little bit about yourself right now that we were really interested. 20 some foster children.
Yeah, 25 since June of 2018. Wow. So we got a little army of foster kids.
That's unbelievable. Right? I mean, God bless you.
Yeah, amen.
How do you? What compels somebody to want to become a foster parent and take in 25 kids? I have quite a few myself. I have 4 myself.
Can't even remember right.
Yeah, number. Four that I claim on my taxes. But I mean, it's such a challenge, and God bless you. And I'm assuming you're married, because I can't.
Yeah,
I can't see.
Yeah, my wife. I can't do that by myself. No,
that many kids by themselves.
Yeah.
So God bless you and your wife for being able to, take care of so many kids in and out. I mean, it's just that's a daunting task. So what compels you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we became foster parents in 2018. So since June of 2018, we had 25 kids. But that started from my wife and I experiencing 6 miscarriages, like paying over $100K out of pocket for all these treatments and stuff. Actually, the most recent one we just had like 4 weeks ago. So I took some downtime from interviews and podcasting and stuff. But we saw it as a way to start a family. So technically, we're foster to adopt. So if a child we have, the parental rights are turned to us first. If the fit is good and the child also wants it, if they're old enough, obviously, to identify that, we're willing to adopt them. I mean, I've done a lot of interviews about that because I feel like the foster care system is super broken too. And I try to advocate about changing it. There's a lot of kids lost in the system. Sure. I didn't even know until recently about like 65-70% of incarcerated males in the US have been in the foster care system at one point or another.
Wow.
So obviously, like, something there has to change in terms of not steering them in the right direction. Obviously, there's other variables there too. You have to make your own choice. But I feel like there's a lot of political red tape at times in terms of kids not getting the services that they need,
Yeah.
kids aging out and really like getting lost in terms of like gangs, human trafficking, drugs, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot there. I've seen a lot. I've dealt with a lot of like people within the government that really piss me off because they don't do the kids justice. But yeah.
Well, it's the family unit, right? So when kids don't have that family unit to go back to get that love and support and that guidance from, they're going to find that somewhere. And that's the problem with most of these kids is they don't find that fit where they feel like they can trust or look up to somebody or get direction from somebody, so they end up on the streets. And then they're going to find a family out there for sure, because there's people there waiting to prey on these kids that say, hey, go take this over here, or go see this guy, or grab me this bag. And then they put some money in their pocket and pat them on the head, and they think like, oh,
Yeah,
cool,
made
you
it.
know, I have like somebody that people look up to here on the street who cares about me. And then they start falling into that system, and then it's all downhill. But it's very commendable for you and your wife, you know, to it's such a huge commitment, you know. It's hard to have one child. So when you have 25 kids,
Yeah.
it's
Other people's children.
Yes, and you're
More importantly, there are
Yeah.
other people's.
and I'm sure you don't feel that way sometimes, because once they come to your home and they become part of the family, like they kind of become part of the Prokopchuk family, right? It's part of like you instilling the right mindset, instilling that love and care, so that they know that they can go out, make mistakes, whatever it is, they could come back, and you know, you guys are there to guide them and help lead them on to get to their full potential, because ultimately that's what we do as parents, right? We just want our kids to be successful, reach their full potential. Not all of them are going to become doctors, not all of them are going to become lawyers or whatever, but we want them to be the best human beings that they can be. So as a parent, you know, that's kind of your goal. And as a foster parent, you know,
The
good
goal
for
is
you
the same,
guys.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they're coming, like you said, they're coming like broken from situations they've experienced that happened to them or they've seen. So it's like getting a child, and you're never really giving the full story, which I think you should be. But you know, people say, "Oh, this is confidential," the caseworker or whatever. But if it's applicable to helping the child heal in your home and not necessarily, you know, exposing someone to a situation that they may be like scared of, like, okay, the kid may have been, you know, potentially almost drowned. Well, he's going to be afraid of water. Well, if
Yeah.
you don't disclose that, I can't avoid that situation in a certain, you know, it may arise.
Sure.
So it's like getting a child sometimes dropped off at like 11, 12 at night, really coming straight removed, like ripped away from whoever they were with, sometimes with a bloody nose, a black eye, like literally has been beaten or something happened to them that night, with a garbage bag of clothes and like a dirty teddy bear. And then you have to figure it out, because like you said, you know, with your child, your own children, you mold them, you know, you raise them, you instill that. But you're getting someone that has all these things that you don't know what makes them tick or what's happened to them. And you really have to figure that out as fast as possible along the way, and just have a safe, loving space for them to get back to as normal as possible.
It's 10 times more challenging, I can't imagine, you know, but it's very commendable to do that. I mean, my brother too took in 3 kids that they're also family. We had family member who passed, and he already had 3, and so he expanded his family as well. So we know, and like you said, every child, every person has its own experience, their own personality, their own, you know, things that they want to be defiant in. So it's such a difficult balance, you know, to try to kind of like put all of those things into one room, and because it's not a one size fits all, right? It's not like, well, this is the way we do things here, because that might not fly with all of them, you know. So unfortunately with kids, you got to give them still that little bit, that space to find themselves, but at the same time, at least having a fatherhead, having a mother, having some discipline, you know. No, we don't eat sugar all day long. You know, we can't just sit here and eat chips, you know, and whatever. All those things are important to instill some kind of like structure. So,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
those are all the hard sides of it. Roman,
Yeah.
what's the fun side of it? I want to hear all the good stuff about it. I'm sure there's
Mhm.
tons and tons of good stuff that comes from this.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely rewarding because you see, like, a lot of the time, if the child is given a safe, loving home, and you kind of address certain things with therapy or get them on the right track, you see them completely like change. Like you see them come in and they're nonverbal, and then in a month, a caseworker brings them, they haven't spoken and so, and then they're like a completely different kid. And like that's rewarding in the sense that like contributed to that change and hopefully like help them heal as best as possible. And then I mean we try to do as much as possible with the kids. I mean we've taken kids to Disney World all over the place, so like those experiences, they'll remember that they may not be able to, if they go back to whatever situation they're in. I mean oftentimes they're coming from impoverished areas, and sometimes they can't necessarily have that experience growing up. So we try to provide as many experiences. And the common misconception, at least in New Jersey, foster parents don't, get paid. And even if like we did, I can make that in a day what I get for the kids. It's basically a stipend. It's to cover, food, activities, clothes, diapers, that kind of stuff, formula. And, there's no compensation there. So, we've paid thousands of dollars out of pocket to, give kids additional experiences like, aquariums and Six Flags and all these other season passes things. So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Roman, I've been wanting an aquarium for some time, so I'll send you a message.
I'll send you Jimmy when I'm done with him here at the warehouse.
Nice. He can clean my aquarium and he takes that responsibilities.
You know what? Something came up, Roman. I don't think we're gonna be able to. All right, Roman. Really quick. What's New Jersey like? Have you been there ever since forever? Will you recommend it to people? Is it like the Jersey Shore I grew up watching? A whole bunch of guys just fist pumping and clubbing. And girls.
In Seaside, yes. In the summer, there's a lot of Italians, I guess, known as Guidos and stuff. But I mean, I came here when I was 5. I came directly to New Jersey. But the funny thing is, I was supposed to go to San Mateo, California. So I often think if I ended up on the West Coast, how different I would be in terms of my personality and those variables. But I ended up in New Jersey and kind of made the best of. I mean, everything is close. So I'm 50-minute drive from Manhattan, New York City, 45-minute drive from Philadelphia, 45 minutes from the beach. So it's a very central area.
That's very close to everything.
It is. Every time we'd go, I had an uncle in Philly, so every time we would go to like JFK, we'd drive through New Jersey to get to Philadelphia. And it just feels like it's one of those when you're driving from the valley down to like Orange County. That's what it feels like for us out here. It's like an hour or something like that, and the next thing you know, you're already in Philadelphia, and you're like, what the heck? These states are so close, so connected to each other. California is really huge, like, so when we're driving through California, especially when you're going up north, you can drive for 8 hours, right, to go get to Sacramento or something like that from Los Angeles. But everything in the East Coast is pretty close.
Would you recommend visiting New Jersey?
Not right now.
I mean, you can still visit. I mean, because of tax purposes and stuff like that, I'm trying to sell my house and move to a state with no state income tax, or Texas or Tennessee or Florida or something.
Texas, Tennessee, or Florida.
That's interesting you brought that up, because that's all we've been talking about here. Not specifically on the podcast, because we don't want to get,
as soon as
chastised. But
as soon as we log off, the first thing out of John's mouth is we got to get the hell out of here.
It is
in Texas.
Almost every single day, this is the conversation that we have. And Jimmy and I were in Dallas about a month ago.
Yeah,
we were looking at some warehouse spaces there and looking at some opportunities over there. So we want to definitely go back one more time, and I think that's going to be our next move. I think our next move is going to be either in Texas or potentially, Arizona. California has gotten so crazy left, and I'm sure New York and New Jersey is not much better, but I feel like just this fringe, few crazy political, fun thinking.
It's also beyond the
socialists
politics too. I mean, you drive around and you've got a lot of homeless problems going on, right? And it just seems like there's just like a mismanagement on social issues here, right? We have a lot of mental health problems, but we're so obsessed with things that don't matter that we're really not addressing a lot of root causes here, which is
absolutely
very unfortunate.
And that's what they like to call.
It shows in the infrastructure. It shows in just just generally in this area, and it's not fun. It stopped being fun maybe 2 years ago.
There's a lot of crack here. So
if you like crack, Roman,
we got it all over.
Nah, I mean, I have family in what's it called, in California, in Sacramento, and I mean, I've been to LA. My friend was stationed in San Diego before I'd been there.
Yeah.
San Francisco. Like I've been, but like last time I was in LA, it was in like 2019. I was like, what is going on here? Like all these homeless, aggressive people are running up to me, trying to sell me mixtapes and stuff like that. Like, what is going on? I was at Venice Beach and people are running up on me like, listen to my mixtape. I'm like, cool. And they're like $20. I'm like, I don't even buy CDs anymore. What do you mean mixtape?
Like, bro, I don't pay $20 for Tupac. Like,
yeah, like
you want
hit me with your
20?
playlist on Spotify. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's
like
Venice
that.
Beach.
It do be like that, yeah.
What's crazy is Snapchat bought up Venice Beach, like billions and billions of dollars worth of real estate there. And so now I don't even think they care about the app anymore. I think they own that strand on Venice. So they could just rent out. They're pretty much landlords now, and they care nothing. And it's full of just not just bum, but very, very interesting characters.
Yeah.
I can't say they're all homeless there.
Yeah.
But there you will find,
You can find me there on the weekends, actually. I'm there at the drum circle.
Jimmy's performing there,
I'm probably the guy that went up to you about the mixtape.
Yeah, I was actually trying to get a workout in Venice Beach, but it was under construction, so I managed just to get a T-shirt. So it was like womp womp.
A T-shirt and a medical marijuana license.
a Gold's Gym T-shirt and pot.
All right, John and Roman, we're about that mark already. Any last words?
Is there anything that you have that you're working on interesting that you'd like the guests to know that they can follow you?
Just my 2 podcasts. Actually, the newest one came out of Clubhouse, so I've been like active trying to add value on Clubhouse. Yeah, I got on there eight weeks ago. I met 2 other people that were looking to add value too. We started hosting rooms. I got a couple thousand followers at this point, and our whole website, podcast, new media company called Plosive Monster Media, which is actually LLC'd in Texas.
Hey,
started out of that too. So I'm working a lot in the podcast space in terms of marketing and advertising.
You're foreshadowing, Roman. You're foreshadowing. I think we might see you over there.
Bump into each other. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, we'll talk about that stuff offline. But it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you for joining us on the GasLit podcast. Much success to you in all of your ventures. I hope you continue doing this. You're a great man. You're a great example of what people can do once they stop trying to feel sorry for themselves and go for their dreams, And even though bad things happen in life, you just got to keep moving forward. And you're a perfect example of that. And thank you for being on our show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on and giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
All
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining the GasLit podcast.